His name is Forrest C. Shaklee. He began life as a sickly child and was thought to be too frail to survive to manhood. As a young boy, he vowed to live his life to the fullest, and through years of struggle and setback, he would persevere. Destined to become a renowned philosopher, scientist, and businessman, he achieved success after success, never forgetting the source of his strength.
I'm very, very happy that early in my life, I accepted nature as my physician. And I tried to live in harmony with nature, and she's never let me down. And when nature speaks, I listen.
Born in 1894 in Carlisle, Iowa, young Forrest Shaklee took sustenance from nature. The world around him filled him with a joyous appreciation of life. Introduced to the outdoors by his father and unable to perform all the regular farm chores for a lad of his age, Forrest spent hours alone contemplating the universe. It was an awesome universe filled with mystery.
I wondered what the power was that caused those geese, ducks, and crane to migrate north in the summertime, then returning to their winter quarters in the south in the wintertime. We too have an instinct telling us what to do, sometimes forcing us to do things that we don't want to do. But if we'd listen to nature, we would get along a whole lot better in this world.
Forrest Shaklee grew up in turn-of-the-century America. His early childhood reverberated with the messages of nature, much of it verbalized in biblical phrases. From such an environment of nature and home would come the foundation of his philosophy, that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
And that means we've used the goldenrod, ginger, dandelions, chicory, mint, catnip, and ivy.
Well, I'll be out the barn.
That certainly should hold us for a while. Last year I was so worried we'd run out of everything, what with everyone feeling so poorly. Thank goodness for the herbs and teas your grandmother has passed down. Natural as anything God can provide.
And better tasting than the castor oil, too. Seems like nature can give you anything you want as long as you know how to read her signs. Isn't that right, Mother?
I wish you'd learn to read the signs of music first.
You know I've just started with Professor Quest.
For all the fried chicken I've already made him, you should be playing the hoedown by now.
The best fried chicken in the world merits the best fiddle playing in the world. Hop right up, and when you come down, just join your hands, go round and round.
Swing when you meet, both head and feet. You swing her and she'll swing you. Now down the center and cast off two.
Hop right up and come down, just join your hands, go round and round.
Although somewhat of a loner, Forrest was open to all experiences. The once sickly child would become an active boxer, wrestler, horseman, and ball player. His father saw to his physical development, while his mother encouraged his inquisitive nature. Young Shaklee's inquisitiveness was aroused in those days not by radio and television, but by political figures and itinerant lecturers who expounded and performed on what was known as the Chautauqua Circuit. Here it was that Forrest encountered one of the most famous men in America, William Jennings Bryan.
If they dare come out into the open field and attempt to define the gold standard as a good thing, we shall fight them to the uttermost. Behind us are the producing masses of this nation and this world. our commercial interests and toilers everywhere. We shall answer their demand for a gold standard by saying, you shall not press down upon the brow of labor the crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold.
The silver-tongued orator of the River Platte was invited to be a guest at the Shaklee home. He was still smarting from his latest presidential defeat.
Teddy Roosevelt is a jingoist, all jaw work and no paw work.
Any man who can bully himself into being strong and mature the way Teddy Roosevelt
I
has done.
admire his tenacity, his love of America, but I can't admire his politics. McKinley chose him. McKinley. If we could trust in the sensibilities of the common man, this country would get back on the right track again.
Because of his ability to speak his mind, it impressed me. And I would get out in the middle of the field where nobody could hear me, and I'd go over the speech that William Jennings Bryan made.
You must not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You must not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold.
So I can truthfully say that he taught me more about speaking in public than any man I ever knew.
Forrest was to learn something else from Bryan, who persevered despite 3 defeats at the polls as the Democratic candidate for president. Shake off adversity and never let it break your stride became part of the Shaklee philosophy. Bernard McFadden, a prominent physical culturist of the time, would have a profound influence on Forrest. At 18, Shaklee went to work for McFadden as one of several able-bodied young men whose feats of strength would encourage mail-order enrollment in the McFadden Institute of Physical Culture. Forrest was learning that good health could be maintained or restored by rigorous exercise and proper diet.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the feat par excellence. In one extraordinary show of strength, one member of our troop will lift 500 pounds!
There were, however, aspects of McFadden's style with which Forrest disagreed.
Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for the profound truths of physical culture. Good nutrition means a strong, healthy body.
Regardless of what has been said about Bernard McFadden, he was a believer in things natural, while he did things that I disagreed with. He left an impression upon my life that has been very beneficial. Feed the inner part of this body, and it'll respond to the demand for strength and ability.
Forrest Shaklee was also open to feeding the inner part of the soul. This part of his personality gained the respect of Dr. Clarence Lindley, a noted physician. Dr. Lindley, appreciative of the young man's eagerness to learn, invited him to his home. There, Forrest was to encounter some of the great intellectuals of the time, men like Clarence Darrow, renowned attorney, and Elbert Hubbard, world-famous philosopher.
I have the same trouble with you I had with Jennings Bryan. I know Darwin is right.
Don't you mean, Clarence, that you feel, that you think Darwin is right?
I know Darwin is right.
It was Hubbard who most impressed the young Shaklee. Forrest had read the philosopher's articles and books, including A Message to Garcia, and in the long evenings they spent together, Forrest listened and learned.
A friend, you see, is a masterpiece of nature. He is to be profoundly sought, profoundly cultivated, and profoundly listened to. One must share. Friendship is a sharing. One must give so that one might receive.
He was a most wonderful man, beautiful conversationalist, very deep thinker, and a very fair critic. He would answer the questions that I asked, but he not only encouraged, but really insisted that I use my own brains to figure out some of the answers. And one of his pet phrases to me was, well, think it out, Shaq, think it out.
To remember me by, a token of friendship.
I'm proud that you consider me a friend. When do you sail?
Next week, on the Lusitania.
Elbert Hubbard died when the Lusitania was sunk by a German U-boat, but his ideas live on as part of the Shaklee philosophy. 1915 also marked the beginning of Forrest Shaklee's studies in chiropractic medicine at the Palmer School in Davenport, Iowa. He might have pursued a career as a professional athlete or scholar, but chose instead to learn the arts of healing. Here he was to encounter B.J. Palmer, who would expound about nature, which he called the life force.
Vitality is needed in every sphere of human effort. It imparts the power to do things. That vitality comes from the innate strength within us.
Forrest had turned to chiropractic medicine when a general practitioner mistakenly diagnosed continued abdominal pain he was experiencing as appendicitis and urged immediate surgery. Forrest got a second opinion from a chiropractor who diagnosed a subluxated vertebra. He was able to treat Shaklee without surgery.
The secret of human power lies in the spinal cord, the brain, and the nervous system. My father...
Shaklee learned a great deal from Palmer, but he objected to Palmer's rigid position that chiropractics can do it all.
You accuse me of being rigid, Forrest, but I don't see you coming up with any alternatives to full chiropractic treatment.
I will.
You will. You always speak with such confidence. You're the best student, the best ball player, the best wrestler.
Of the two of us, I am the better wrestler.
I challenge you now. One fall.
I'll not only pin you, BJ, but I'll also tweak your beard.
The young Shaklee had already earned a reputation for not accepting things as they were. His restless energy transformed itself into a combative spirit, both on the wrestling mat and in everyday life. It was that energy and spirit that led to his conception of a multi-service clinic to treat the whole patient. It was an idea that was ahead of its time.
I don't expect to have my own way every time that I get an idea, but I'll fight for it. They either got to prove me wrong, or I'll go ahead and do it.
And do it, Forrest Shaklee did. As a young doctor, he investigated the possibilities of buying a practice in Rockwell City, Iowa. A clinic was available. Without finances and too proud to ask his father for the money, Dr. Shaklee called upon the local banker.
You know, Doctor, we fully respect your willingness to become part of our community. We need your quality of citizen in Rockwell City. But to get a loan from this bank, you need proper collateral.
I have collateral. Right up here.
Dr. Shaklee.
I do. Up here. The greatest force, sir, within man are the thoughts he thinks. And I am not a careless thinker. I project my thoughts the way a marksman projects the bullet from his rifle. I take careful and forceful aim, and I make sure I strike the target. I will achieve what I set out to achieve.
I see. Blessed is the straight thinker, for he shall hit the bullseye.
Dr. Shaklee got his loan. He had put into practice a belief in himself that he would later formulate into the cornerstone of his philosophy. He was later to call this thoughtsmanship.
Thoughtsmanship is a method used to direct the life force, because what you think you look, what you think you do, and what you think you are.
Everything will be all right, Mrs. Smith.
The first clinic was a tremendous success. Now sporting a beard, the youthful Dr. Shaklee was indeed a straight thinker, and his patients were encouraged to do the same.
How are you, Billy? The mind, you know, is pretty much like a wheelbarrow. It goes the way you push it. You should be wary of those who try to push your mind around. And be careful of negative thinking. It upsets the body balance. Positive thoughts, you know, tend to bring happiness and contentment. They also can get you what you go after.
Dr. Shaklee also urged adherence to biblical truths and the principles of the Golden Rule, for he believed that whatsoever a man soweth, so shall he reap. Dr. Shaklee saw in his own experiences the truth of this wisdom. He tirelessly served the community and the outlying rural areas of Rockwell City. He often rode many miles through storms and over washed-out roads to tend to sick patients.
Mrs. Smith. Oh, hello, Mrs. Conroy. Oh, no, don't go away. I want to talk to both of you. Dr. Shaklee's on his way to the Masons. The child's sick. It's a long way.
Having heard that the doctor was en route to a needy patient, farmers returned his concerns by lighting his way with friendship and love.
If you give of yourself, without question, help comes from the most unexpected places. The golden rule, do unto others, you'd have others do unto you, should be uppermost in the mind of every person.
John, would you come here for a second?
Dr. Shaklee's inquisitive mind and his unlimited energy propelled him into new areas of research. He began to investigate the uses of nutritional supplements, developing what he called vitalized minerals. At the same time, in another part of the world, a Polish chemist, Casimir Funk, was being credited with developing the vita-amine, or vitamin.
We believed that there were values that could be captured and concentrated into a form that would be easily administered or easily taken by the patient, so that we would have all of the values of a square meal in just a small tablet or capsule. And that was the beginning of our research work on Shaklee products as we know them today.
As the years passed, Dr. Shaklee redoubled his efforts to discover new supplements which would allow the body to function at its optimum, the way nature intended. He was building a future and a family. And from the beginning, his sons helped build that future, working at their father's side. His experience had taught him that good nutrition was equally important for a healthy individual as for one who was ill. Dr. Shaklee was a pioneer and advocate of all that the medical sciences could offer to help further diagnosis and treatment, like the X-ray. At that time, he and others like him were unaware that prolonged exposure was dangerous.
Take a deep breath. Hold it.
From his own constant exposure to the radiation, Dr. Shaklee suffered severe burns.
The infection will spread. We don't know very much about X-ray burns, but I'm afraid the infection will spread. The only way to save your life, Doctor, is to have the arm amputated.
And what about the hip? Are you going to take the hip off?
We can't take the hip, Doctor, you know that, but we can give you a little more time by amputating the arm. We can retard the spread.
No, thank you, Doctor. I'll keep my sleeve full. I'll tell you this. You're not going to die from this. I will not die from this.
After seeking help at some of the nation's leading health centers and dissatisfied with their prognosis, Dr. Shaklee resolved to begin a program of physical fitness and nutrition that would give his body a chance to heal itself. He would not accept the doctor's judgments that his X-ray burns were terminal. Once more, he looked to nature, exercising regularly, monitoring his diet carefully, supplementing it with vitamins and minerals from his own research. He would allow nature to restore his health through the body's natural processes.
It took me about 3 years, I guess, 2 or 3 years to get my arm back to normal, and now I'm no after effects whatsoever.
Dr. Shaklee survived to continue his research and to treat his patients. But once again, fate struck a cruel blow. His most up-to-date clinic in Mason City, Iowa, with all of its contents, including research and personal documents, burned to the ground. The record of a life was gone. The achievements of a life had perished in the flames. But for Dr. Shaklee, only the physical materials were gone. The ideas in his head could not be destroyed by fire. Designing one of the forerunners of the modern motorhome, he took his family to Florida. There he encountered 3 of the nation's greatest thinkers, Henry Ford, Thomas Alva Edison, and Harvey Firestone.
I developed a way of setting the telegrapher's key so that when it would go off, and I've sent the... Oh, gentlemen!
He was to learn an invaluable lesson from these 3 great men, one which would stand him in good stead for the rest of his life.
If those 3 men, the brains of our industrial world, could forget their minor troubles of business and act and play together like 3 little kids, I thought it's about time that I better let down for a while and not take too much strain. So my advice to everybody, don't take yourself too darn seriously.
That newfound spirit enabled Dr. Shaklee to withstand the losses suffered in the 1929 Wall Street crash. He moved west and eventually settled in Oakland, California. There he opened a new multi-service medical care clinic and resumed his research in nutritional supplementation. It was a time of promise and renewal, darkened suddenly by the death of his wife in 1941.
I've had a few catastrophes in my life, but by digging down into my past experience, I got the nerve to start over again. If I had given up when everything seemed dead wrong, you wouldn't be listening to what I have to say today.
Dr. Shaklee's greatest achievements would not be realized until after World War II, when with his 2 sons, Forrest and Lee, he embarked on a new venture.
The best way to sell to people is on a one-to-one basis.
I think it's important that we should take a hard look at compensation. How do we make these people want to sell Shaklee?
I think you're both right. But I think perhaps a better term is to share Shaklee. We need to share the dream of thoughtsmanship, that anybody can take our dream and can make it their own.
That was the beginning of the dream. Dr. Shaklee's food supplements were now to be shared with the American public, by the American public. The dream became known as the Shaklee Products Company. Dr. Shaklee had achieved the greatest success of his life, and yet his life was to take on an added dimension when a friend introduced him to Dorothy Potter, whom he married in 1957. The Bay Area was to remain their home. From here, they would inspire and give direction to a large family of Shaklee people around the world, doing this as they do all things, together.
The greatest treasure man can possess in this life is to love and be loved. It lends purpose to life. You forget self, and it is a sure foundation upon which to build a future. When the one you love is in harmony with your life commitments, then your whole life is in harmony.
And Dr. Shaklee has found that harmony in life. Despite two major illnesses, one as a child, the other as an adult, financial hardships and personal tragedies, Dr. Shaklee has realized his dreams. He has succeeded in turning a life of adversity into one of challenge, achieving his greatest success at an age when most men are thinking of retiring.
Age is not a question of years. It's a question of how you deal with those years. To heck with yesterday. What's doing tomorrow? You are at the beginning.
The Shaklee Corporation has grown from an idea to a worldwide enterprise involving several 100,000 men and women. As the leader in nutritional products, Shaklee continues its research based on Dr. Shaklee's principles. All products are derived from natural substances. All are designed to keep us in harmony with nature. Forrest C. Shaklee started it all with thoughtsmanship, and the Shaklee family continues it the same way.
I am confident that the dream that began so many long years ago is being fully realized by those who have volunteered to continue my work. I wish to thank you all very much.